So this time in April, many people around the world are celebrating a special festival, aren't they?
Yeah.
Aren't
They do.
I have to kind of naturally, I don't know how to do natural transition.
They will also go outside to fly a cat. Cat.
Okay. You can fly a cat in New York. So this time in April is a very special time of the year for many people around the world. It is a year that they celebrate many festivals.
Yeah, for example, in China we celebrate Qingming.
And in the West we celebrate Easter. Typically a 3-day holiday, right?
Yeah.
So, a normal weekend and an extra day.
Qingming is actually one of the most important 4 traditional festivals in China. Others including the Spring Festival, the Mid-Autumn Festival, and Dragon Boat Festival. The name of Qingming is actually coming from one of the 24 solar terms in China. It actually means clear and bright. It usually happens 15 days after the spring equinox, which means from today on the weather will become nicer and warmer. And the name is also known as Tomb Sweeping Festival for a lot of people. The tomb sweeping tradition wasn't actually there until Tang Dynasty, which is in the 6th century. At that time, in ancient China, a lot of people actually pay tribute to their ancestors in different time, and they love different ceremonies, which is very expensive and also very time consuming. A lot of people need to ask day off to go back home and to do this kind of tribute. So in 732, the emperor at that time declared that we should formally do the tribute to the ancestors once a year. So he set the date around Qingming.
So traditionally, Easter is seen as like a 3-day event. So it starts on Good Friday, which is the day that Jesus was crucified, and then it ends on Easter Sunday, which is the day that he was resurrected. Typically it's seen as that event, but actually it's more complicated than that. I mean, many people from outside the West, or who are not Christian, probably are not really aware of this. Actually it starts all the way back 40 days before Good Friday on Lent.
40 days?
40 days, yeah, all the way back. And that's 40 days represents the time that Jesus was actually fasting in the desert. So lots of Christians, they'll actually start Lent, which starts on Shrove Tuesday, which from this time, for a period of 40 days, just like Jesus Christ, they'll abstain from many foods. So that's what people usually do. They eat pancakes for that day. That's where the tradition comes from. They cook the pancakes, use all the butter and use all the eggs. So typically for Christians, those who observe all of these rules, they actually fast for 40 days, or actually abstain from certain foods. That's their favourite kind of foods, kind of fatty foods like butter or eggs, this kind of stuff. So anyway, people are not really aware that actually it starts 40 days before, and after Lent, so abstaining from foods for 40 days, then they have the Good Friday, which is which is then in remembrance of Jesus Christ being crucified. And on that day, Christians, what they often do is they will they won't eat any meat to symbolise because the meat symbolises Jesus' flesh, so they choose to eat fish on that day, and they will abstain from drinking alcohol as well, because the alcohol actually symbolises Jesus' blood. And then Easter Sunday is the day that he was resurrected, and that day usually people eat lamb. Okay, so what do you usually do on Qingming Day?
So as the name suggests, Tomb Sweeping Festival, we will go to the tomb of our ancestors and sweep the tomb to make it clean and clear.
And I also see people usually burning stuff around the tomb as well, right?
Yeah, it actually shows that the Chinese believes in afterlife. Because we believe in afterlife, we want to provide our ancestors a good life. That we will burn paper house, paper money, paper fancy car to our ancestors to make sure that they enjoy nice and comfortable life in the world they are currently living in. And we also bring food or alcohol to our ancestors, and we'll enjoy a feast with them together while remembering them.
That's already quite a packed festival. Is there any other customs you also have?
Yeah, because like we mentioned before, it is also a solar term, which means the weather is going to get nicer and warmer. Suggests that this is the best time of the spring. So people will also go outings. For example, they are going to picnic and also flying kites. It's also a common activities that we do in Qingming Day.
Interesting, I didn't know that.
So what about Easter? What do you do?
Well, Easter has many actually activities associated with it, right? So I mentioned before about Lent. So actually, once you've gone through Lent and you get to Good Friday, people who are really religious will go to church, right? They'll actually go to pray on that day. So you're going to go actually, I think 3 days in total. You go on. So it's obviously Good Friday, and then you have the Saturday as well, and the Sunday. You'll go 3 days in a row. And obviously, typically you would abstain from drinking alcohol. That day you wouldn't have any meat on the Friday. And then you'd also meet with your family and get together and have a nice meal on the Sunday. One other custom we have, which everyone really loves doing, is hunting for Easter eggs. Right, so
bunnies and Easter eggs.
Exactly. Yeah. So what usually happens is on Easter Sunday, the parents of the family will hide many chocolate eggs around the house, and the kids will have to hunt these down and put them in their basket. Sometimes having a competition with their siblings to see who can get the most eggs. That's good fun. Obviously, back in the day, people would not be eating chocolate eggs. Originally, it was because during the Lent you couldn't eat eggs for that 40 days. The people would then, obviously chickens are still laying eggs, they're not Christians, but the chickens. So you take the eggs from the chickens and then you store them to eat at the end of Lent. When it came to Easter, you'd eat all these eggs. But now, obviously, people buy lots of chocolate eggs to make sort of a more tasty version of the egg that used to be you wouldn't eat during Lent. So that's where the origin of this egg eating comes from.
And what about bunnies? Why you have bunnies?
Bunnies, yeah. So bunnies are seen as delivering the eggs. But the reason bunnies was chosen is
bunny.
bunny. The bunnies actually they're chosen because they represent rebirth. So it's just the rebirth, and the egg actually is included in that. The egg is seen as rebirth because it's a seed of a new being. So the rebirth, of course, representing the resurrection of Jesus Christ. So the chocolate egg is one example of a food we eat on Easter. What kind of foods would you typically eat on Qingming Day?
So in China, because we're quite big country, so
pretty big, yeah.
The food could differ from region to region, depends on what they have. But one thing that is quite representative of Qingming Jie is called Qingtuan, which is a green rice bowl made of glutinous rice and mugwort juice.
Wow.
So it's like a herbal.
Yeah, sounds tasty and healthy.
Glutinous rice bowl, and then you put wrapping paste, or now people also put some salty minced meats or salty egg yolk in it. It is special because this kind of herb or grass is usually grow at its best time in Qingming, so it's quite special.
That sounds pretty interesting and pretty tasty as well. In Easter we actually have lots of other foods that we also eat. It's not just chocolate eggs, of course. So as I mentioned on Good Friday, you're going to eat fish because you don't want to eat meat for that day. And then on the Easter Sunday, typically we eat lamb. Lamb, I think actually originally comes from, it was Jews used to like eating the lamb, and then Christianity developed out of that religion, so they also have this custom as well.
As we know, both Easter and Qingming Jie are very, very important traditional festivals in Western culture or in the Chinese culture. And they appear in a lot of artwork along with history as well. One of the most famous pieces about Qingming Jie is called Qingming Shanghetu, one of our national treasure in China that describe people's life back in more than 1,000 years ago. So it tells how people do business, how people go outside to enjoy the spring, how people go to school, and all detailed perspectives of people's life there. Provides a lot of insights of how people are living back in that time. And the whole picture is about 5.5 meters long.
Super long, yeah.
Super long, so you can know a lot of stories about the time back then.
Yeah, it's a very beautiful painting. I've seen it before at the museum actually, and it's very famous, right? Yeah, really nice, yeah. I guess if I was asked, what is the painting that represents Easter, I would say The Last Supper by Leonardo da Vinci.
Yeah, it's really famous.
Very famous, yeah. This picture was created in the 15th century, around the time he was alive. But it's depicting an event 2,000 years ago, obviously just before Jesus was crucified. This is the Last Supper he has with his disciples just before he's crucified. A very well known, very widely dispersed and very internationally recognised photograph, or very internationally recognised painting. And actually a lot of people have analysed it very deeply to learn more about Jesus Christ's life, and how he's represented today is actually often based off this artwork. So after learning more about these two festivals, we can see a lot of similarities between them actually, and it's very interesting that at the same time of the year, around kind of mid-spring, we have a similar festival kind of paying respect and to our previous ancestors.
It also adds up to the time that we can enjoy different cultures. Last weekend we had Qingming Jie, and this weekend we have Easter.
Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you learned something as well. Please subscribe, please like the video and share it with your friends, and make sure you tune in next week to see another interesting topic.